The journey home likely begins here. I wonder how it's going to be. I wonder from two different perspectives, I guess. One, just the viewer of us being able to see, is it just going to be quick flash montage, us arrive, and then everybody else has to learn the horrors and stuff that just occurred? Or is it going to be everyone's still kind of stuck here and we're slowly like grouping ourselves together and gaining the confidence and everything that we kind of need, the energy to go back and get up on out of here, while also, Rudy now having to deal with the first time of basically not having a hand or anything, right? And everybody having to figure out where they're moving forward within their own lives, with Paul kind of being gone as well. And what comes up out of this for somebody like Roxy or the rest of her group and everybody who came together solely for this mission, where does that go? We're left with a lot of questions too, with Zenith specifically, where exactly she finds herself. Left last time, likely assuming no memories, but also more so, I guess, she's kind of just at nothing anymore. And I don't know if this is going to be a scenario where maybe she is kind of, and I don't know the proper wording and everything to use for this, but I'm just going to say reverted, in the sense that now she has essentially nothing and her functions themselves are like kind of non-existent. And it's going to be something where we're going to be able to kind of have to reteach her everything, essentially like as if she's a newborn infant, and like kind of teach her the ways from there. Or if it's going to more so end up being she physically is unable to for the remainder of her life, and then we're going to have to look after and take care of her in the state that she has found herself in. I'm uncertain, I guess, on that. So maybe hopefully they can understand and gain some more clarity going forward themselves, and for us as viewers as well, I think would be more than kind of what we need. So excited to see, I guess, where all of this ends up leading us back to. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If you like it all, like and subscribe to me. Lots of me. Feel free to stick around for the discussion. Leave comments with this episode or series. Let's get going with episode 23 of Mushoku Tensei season 2. The one time we needed an OP. One time it's acceptable to watch.
俺を心配していたのだろうか。彼らが死ぬ間際、俺のことをどう思っていたのだろうか。真実はわからない。そして俺はそうして
And you will never know.
両親の骨も悲しいと思うほど両親を愛してなかった。
Yeah.
でもせめて葬式ぐらいは出ておけばよかったんじゃないか。
Yeah, probably.
ぐらい見ておけばよかったんじゃないか。
Probably. But the regrets and things that we no longer can take back, can no longer fix. The only thing we can do is do it different here. Oh, translating it that way.
俺は自分がパウロの子供じゃないと思っていたのに、パウロは俺の父親だったんだ。
私と出かけませんか？ほら、この街はまだまだ面白そうなものがありますし、先日のようにまた一緒。
Similar scenarios almost to previous life, trying to drag him out. Scenario of Norn trying to figure out what the appropriate reaction almost is. Not reaction, but what you do.
ゼニスさんのことは残念でした。私もブエナ村で一緒に暮らしていた時のことは、冒険者をしていると身近な人が死ぬことは珍しいことではありません。辛さはわかります。私も経験がありますので。
嘘つかないでくださいよ。師匠は父さんも母さんも
Doesn't mean she didn't necessarily lose somebody close to her.
最後に会ったのは数年前ですが、どちらも元気。
じゃあわかんないですよ。軽々しくわかるなんて言うなよ。うまくやれている気になって。でも大切な部分からは目を背けていたことに。家族との確執から目を背けて、また取り返しのつかない失敗を繰り返して、結局何も変わっていなかったんだ。
ブエナ村での生活は本当に幸せでした。ルディはとても才能にあふれていましたし、パウロさんもゼニスさんも温かく接してくれました。あなたたちが私に家族の温かみを教えてくれたんです。私にとってパウロさんたちは 第二の家族です。あなたと悲しみを分かち合いたいんです。
Mm.
ルディ、辛いことでも二人で分ければきっと薄くなります。
It is true,
ルディ、
but it's easier said than done. Jesus Christ, she just dragged him like that?
大丈夫。今は私に任せてください。
Okay, Roxy. I gotta think on that because I don't know exactly where that comes from on her end of uh this is the appropriate call to response here, right? I don't know where that screams from because it's not like she's somebody who's utilized something like that for her entire life or living, or maybe necessarily even been around and seen people in similar scenarios up to that. So I'm not sure exactly how to, I guess, feel on utilizing the situation for something like that yet.
少しは気が晴れましたか？
はい。一つ
Damn, they're really making bro look destroyed. Holy fuck, that face.
僕はこれからどうすればいいでしょうか。
今目の前にいる家族を大事にするしかないでしょう。パウロさんだってルディにはそれを望んでいるはずです。
That's exactly the scenario that he's put you in. Mm-hmm.
はい。
Family that's back home.
ありがとうございました。ロキシ、あなた。
ルディ、申し訳ありませんが、私はエリナリーゼさんと話がある。
Ah, okay. Is that where that came from then? Does that answer the question I had?
すみません。母さんの世話を押し付けてしまって。いいえ、これが私の仕事です。母さんの様子はどうですか？記憶はないよう
Not
です。
too great.
不思議と体の方は健康です。
Hmm.
変な後遺症もありません。シェラさんの見立てでは魔力結晶に閉じ込められたことによる魔力的な弊害だろうと。
Okay.
治るんでしょうか？エリナ・リーゼ様の話によると無理とのことです。
Hmm.
できることはするつもりです。必要ありません。ルーデウス様、さしてがましいとは思いますが、少しだけ失礼な物言いを許していただいてもよろしいでしょうか？はい。
Told me we're not gonna have a bad reaction to it, but go for it.
なさい。やるべきことですか？旦那様もそうおっしゃるでしょう。奥様のお世話は私がすべきことです。そのために私は今ここに。帰りましょう。家族のところへ。
It'll at least be a little better, and that's also part of his own duty too, right? Be back home and bring everyone together. Back to the teleporter. Never mind, gotta stay out the night. I wonder if some shit's gonna go down where like we get there and it's just like gone because Orsted did some shit. Like he'd noticed people were utilizing it. Want to tell about the wife? You want to explain that? The kid? Any of
シ
it?
ルフィーとは多少ベクトルの違う好きだが、どっちがと聞かれても答えられない。俺はシルフィーにミサオを立てると誓った。それを裏切るわけにはいかない。
です。
Did you not? Am I misreading what happened earlier in the night then? Or the other day?
あら、あまり恋人みたいな感じは申し訳ないんですけど。
知っています。
Lane at least told you? Yeah, okay.
みんなでルディを心配しているとき、エリナリーゼさんから聞きました。にやむことはありません。私はルディが弱っているところにつけ込んだだけです。私がやったことなのです。本来なら私みたいなのを相手にしてくれないのは分かっています。
Yeah.
そんなことを。
奥さんを大事にしてあげてください。
せめて何か恩返しをさせてくれませんか？
恩返しっ ですか。
はい。俺にできることなら何でもします。
Oh no.
じゃあ言い訳を聞いてもらってもいいですか。一目惚れだったんですよ。
誰にですか？
ルディにです。迷宮で助けてもらった時にですよ。
俺に？
あの場面では私でなくてもドキッとしてしまいますよ。
She got her dream.
私の理想そのままでした。リナ・リーゼさんやギースさんもルディなら自力で立ち直るって言ってました。けどブエナ村で暮らしていた頃をもちろんルディには愛する人がいるって聞きましたし、きっとルディが落ち込んでもその人が立ち直らせてくれるんでしょう。でもその人は今ここにいないじゃ。
So I shall take the place.
じゃあ私がするしかって
Had to give you that little push.
だって仕方ないじゃないですか。好きなんですもん。ひどいですよ。あんまりですよ。
師匠、旅の間だけでも。
それでどうするんだ。何の解決にもなっていない。俺のためにもロキシーのためにも。
やめてください。
At least she realized. Way back to the snow.
もう目隠しを取っても大丈夫ですよ。
ルディ、ここは
Ah, keeping it more of a got it. That's smart.
あなた、ミリス京都ではありませんでしたわよね。
She's gonna say it's okay for you to have multiple women because you're not a believer. Yeah.
ではありませんわね。
そんなはずです。
I see where this is going already.
敬虔なミリス京都ですわ。知ってます？ミリス京都というのは妻を一人。
They're really pushing it. Alright, fine. Let's keep the harem going. Come on.
少々堅苦しいけれど、実際に愛される側に回ってみると心地よい教えですわね。けれど、ルーデウス、
You don't fall into that.
複数の相手を同時に愛することが悪いとは思いませんのよ。
Listen, there's not. And if all parties involved are, there's not. But you gotta talk to Sylphie first. You can't just make that decision on your own.
ロキシーをめとりなさいな。
Let's talk to Sylphie
本
first.
気で言ってるんですか？
今のロキシーは見ていられませんわ。あの子、本当はあなたに甘えたいのに身を引くつもりですのよ。自分の会うタイミングが悪かったと。
シルフィーと
ロキシーのことはどうしたいんですの？
幸せになってほしいですよ。
Well, then you only have one choice.
ロキシーもシルフィーも幸せにしたい。でも
虫のいい話だ。シルフィーと結婚して子供まで作って、それでいて別の。
I'm so appreciative of us getting inner dialogue of him fucking finally and it being reasonable with everything that he's saying here. Like, I am thrilled by that. Because I was thinking when we went this route, it was going to be him saying this instead. Yeah, things turned out good for the time being, but it doesn't mean that that's necessarily what everybody wanted at the time.
泣いていましたけどね。
それくらいは仕方ありませんわ。あなたならできますわ。シルフィーとロキシーを同じぐらい。
Oh, and I don't doubt that either, but I still think we gotta talk to Sylphie first.
だが旅先でこんなことになってシルフィーに幻滅されるだろう。
It's a valid thing as well.
自分だけを愛してほしいかもしれない。二人に見放されてまた一人になるかもしれない。それでも俺は二人を幸せにしたい。
This is the only compromise.
でも俺がそうしたいからといって師匠とシルフィーがイエスと言ってくれるかどうかはまた別の話でしょう。
じゃあ、今ロキシーに聞いちゃいなさいな。
You're saying about the whole marriage thing or just seeing if she's on board with it right now?
のは何でしょうか。
師匠にお話ししたいことがあります。
Oh, she was up. She was listening. But say it anyway.
師匠の教えに何度も助けられました。 俺は師匠がいたからここまで生きてこられました。
That's true.
それで
But have not become what you are.
ですね、俺にはもう妻がいます。シルフィエット・グレイラットという名前なので、妻はもともとは名字がなくてただのシルフィエットだったんです。
はい、そう聞いています。
そういうことじゃないだろう。
I do love his struggle here. Fuck
と
it.
めてああしておけばというぐらいなら俺はクズでいい。
That's valid.
師匠もロキシー・グレイラットに名前を変えるつもりはありませんか？愛しています。
Like a second to sink in.
ってくださるのはとてもありがたいです。でも奥さんの了承は取らなくてもいいんですか？
We do.
取らなきゃいけないです。
では
We shall wait. I shall only respond after we know. Yes.
その後でもう一度聞かせてください。
I meant to say we should have waited on that first. But I think that gives him enough understanding of where she's gonna be at.
はい。なんだ、同じじゃん。
The journey home has been a weird one. I think we could say a struggle on many, many different parts, many different characters, mentally not knowing how to tackle certain scenarios, not knowing what lies ahead for them, not knowing where to go, not knowing the best way to approach things. It's a real complicated thing, and it's a thing that comes many of times within people, right? This is a different scenario, and it's dealing with loss and struggle to move forward and not knowing the approach or anything, or just really struggling to get back to being who you actually are and being yourself and find what that almost middle ground, that norm of who you are really is. But it can kind of hold true to a similarity of people who set themselves out on an adventure, who find something, who get to the end of the journey, the thing that they've been wanting to accomplish and go through all this time, and instead of feeling joy and happiness and stuff, end up finding the thing at the end of the day wasn't exactly what they wanted, and it leaves them in a state of uncertainty and a state of just being mentally clouded for however long it may be afterwards. We see a similar scenario here. While it's not necessarily, it's because it's a scenario that it's not what we wanted, right? Because of all the negatives and the bad things that kind of come out of it, leave Rudy in a state of like, well, where do we go? Like, what do I do from here? What even, like, what's my purpose? Like, what have I really questioning on a bunch of things, which is a pretty normal thing, I think, in reaction for him to come. The episode is weird. I sat here for a little bit of time, and I've been thinking of ways to approach it and say it. Say, like, I guess just my general feelings on it. So it's going to be more of rambling, I guess, what I end up doing here. And I've been trying to really strike down on what it is that made me feel uncomfortable and maybe not enjoy the narrative direction that we went here at all. Because I have problems maybe with it, which a lot can come down personal preference, which I wish wasn't the case. I feel like it's happened a lot, especially this core, where I just haven't really loved decisions that have been made for the story itself. And once again, we find ourselves in a conflicting problem here, but trying to strike down what exactly is it, like pinpoint that exact problem of what made me feel the way that I did. And it's not Rudy in the slightest. There's so many things that I can almost applaud him for the way that he approached scenarios this episode. There's so much I actually am grateful for that they included regarding him, whether it's internal dialogue or his reaction towards Roxy's initial movements, or even his doubling down on the matter a little bit later on of wanting to stay loyal, even though he already wasn't. But now that he's a little bit more cleared up and looking forward to the future a bit, right? So many good things I think come out of it for him as a person and as a character. And I think the problem the problem lies with Roxy herself and Alina Lise, where I think the things that made me not enjoy the episode so much. Roxy, a lot of things I didn't particularly love that we've kind of driven her into with the character that leave me uncertain in whether it's things because we haven't seen her in however Lord knows long, that my memory is clouded a little bit as to who exactly she is, or whether it's why her intentions and her actions and stuff wound up as the way that they did. And Alina Lise being the counterpart, I guess, to that, right? Her being her little partner in crime for a majority of that as well. While maybe not fully being on the same page for at all moments there, it's still contributing and pushing, say, Rudy or Roxy in certain directions for the things that are occurring. And I think a lot of my unhappiness with what ends up coming out of this comes out of that. The only thing I would tie Rudy into that I think was negative overall is just I don't buy the relationship at all. I just don't. There's nothing there for me, and I don't know if it's because I saw the relationship when we've built Rudy as a child to the way that he is now, or if it's because I've always just felt that the perfect imaginary scenario that Roxy kind of built up in her mind that ended up coming to life here was kind of lame in itself, or whether it's because the way that she talked to her mom about like finding this person, or the way that her feelings towards somebody like Rudy or this person that she'd find would end up becoming at a certain point, that made her dad, I remember in that situation, freak out the way that he ended up doing, was also just weird. I mean, we've been writing it since the beginning, that this was going to happen. It felt pretty obvious to me that we were going in a harem route. I've actually known for a long period of time that Roxy was going to be joining here, like joining the harem at some point, right? Like I'm aware of the scenario that we were going down. But I was just almost hoping that I think it would be handled in a way that it wasn't. And I think maybe that also has ruined the experience a little bit. To be a little bit more specific with some of the scenarios and the things I want to talk about, I would like to skip through the episode first, as I think that'll give us a little bit more clearer picture of maybe where I'm going and why I was feeling certain ways in the moments. Like I said, I loved so much of Rudy this episode. I really did. Well, I will be transparent fully, as I don't love Rudy as a person or as a character really that much at all. And I haven't throughout the entire journey of the story, even till now. And even while he has moments where he comes out and shines, I still don't particularly love him. I think this episode was really a bright spot for him in a lot of areas. Just his reflection overall on his scenario, the way that he looked at his parents, the way he treated them before in the past, what possibly they could have been doing for him if they actually made all those efforts, and the things that they could have done if they were at their ends and not knowing exactly what to do either. What his decision was to not see them, before their death, not actually talk these things out, not be able to verbalize that in any sort of way. Communication being non-existent, and then not being able to see them either and properly go through and grieve any of the loss of them, right? Never really building up or having that situation that he goes through, and then kind of relating that so much to Paul and relating that to himself now, right? Leaving everybody behind. How could Paul do something like that? But then looking at the way that he's always, even as he talked before with Zenith before, the way that he feels towards her, right? Not maybe feeling like either of these people are actual parents in any sort of way to him, and then struggling once again here, thinking we have a chance to restart, do things over, and now reflecting after you lose essentially both of your parents fully for who they were, one of them and the other one just their lives being gone. Did I do anything different really from the scenario that I found myself in before, and really being like, really, I fucked that up. I did. This is not the scenario I wanted to be in. And just kind of being destroyed by it, I think was really excellent on his part to kind of think about, what have I been doing this whole time? Like realizing I've been missing out on something, and I was so happy I could start my family and do all these things, but I was given an opportunity to have something I've never been able to have either, within actually having these loving and caring parents. And I went out of my way and kind of ruined that, or didn't put myself in a position where I could be fully acceptant of that, for however I needed to. And then now having to lose Paul, and then really questioning, Paul, leaving him behind almost, and dropping this heavy load on him of having to manage and take care of all of his family and the people that are going to be left behind, and now exactly what comes on him, even though none of that being Paul's fault, but really questioning, right? And I love his line of just him being like, he wasn't Paul's kid, but he was definitely his father or something, or he was Paul, whatever, however he worded it. Really looking at the idea of how Paul looked at him versus how he maybe saw him, I think worked itself out really nice. Entered scene number one, the issues that I definitely have. Roxy coming in, I don't have an issue with her trying to connect, trying to relate, trying to get onto the same page almost as him, or make him feel comforted, make him feel good about this situation, or maybe not even good, but brighten him up a little bit as he's been kind of in the slump and unable to. You're able to see by the blood still kind of coming out all over his shirt and everything. Clearly hasn't changed or really gone through anything since the days on end, probably, of being stuck in the situation and not knowing exactly how to process anything. So she's just trying to be like, I'm here for you, right? In a good moment. And I understand that and I get that. Now her choice of words are completely like poor, right? I think him lashing out was maybe a little, I think it was definitely correct of him to do, because she was saying some pretty, I guess, not really thinking through, I guess, properly the things that she was saying. But he is assuming here that, you know, just because we can't connect on the parent level doesn't mean that she hasn't lost anybody or anything that's close to her, and also not realizing the importance that somebody like Zenith or Paul have actually had on the influence and impact overall on her life up to this point. So it's a little bit of an oversight maybe on his part, but he also is mentally fucked at this point, doesn't really know where he's going, and he's just reverting almost to the initial ways that he would kind of take out his anger and frustrations on people that would merge into his life when he was in his previous state, right? So cool, right? I get it. I get where he's coming from here. I get also it's like sometimes when somebody really doesn't know the shit that you're going through or feeling, you don't want to hear anything from them. So maybe just shut the fuck up, Roxy, right? Like I get it completely. So lashing out here makes sense, but I'm not going to fully fault her for trying to make an effort and trying to do something. And clearly when words don't end up working here, she ends up taking things to another level. We later learn out, I have problems with this, but we later end up learning out it's through Alina Lisa's kind of guidance almost of telling her about the situation and probably letting her know that by doing this, you might be able to fix him, might be able to bring him to life a little bit more. Was she able to? No. Let's not get that mixed up. He is completely still not knowing where he's headed at all and destroyed even after the fact. But it did help him get up enough that he was able to go visit and look at and view Zenith and be able to get up and actually go visit and make that determination that we do have to go back home. So it worked for a certain thing, but it still was a little, I don't know. It didn't necessarily do the job. So once again, do I fault her completely for trying to make an effort or do something to solve the situation or fix him or save him in any sort of way and not let him be completely down like this? Absolutely not. Do I fault her for the way that she did approach this though? Because maybe morally speaking and looking at it, you don't take advantage of somebody who is completely vulnerable in a state like this. Yeah, I completely do. This is the wrong action to take in a scenario like this. We absolutely don't do that. And that causes the strange conflict that ends up coming because you don't want to fault Rudy for being taken advantage of. Roxy is very understanding of that. So she words things a little bit later on by saying that she took advantage, like openly stating these things. A similar situation almost to what we get with Lilia and what happened with her and Paul, where she ends up, Paul kind of claims and takes, you know, credit or whatever. Credit's probably not the right word, but responsibility, I guess, for her being pregnant when she was. But at the same time, Lilia actually coming clean and being like, no, I actually went out of my way and I was the one who seduced him and I did all of this, right? And really trying to bring things back down a little bit so maybe Paul doesn't look like the complete asshole in the scenario as if he was the one being taken advantage of, and we can kind of relieve things a little bit too, right? We draw a lot of similarities to the situations regarding what Paul actually is versus where Rudy is and who he is and kind of how all that stuff comes about. cool. I get it. I think it works fine for a story perspective, but it's still a weird thing to do. It's still not probably the correct action in any sort of way for us to be able to take here. And it also leaves me really questioning what I really know, if anything at all, about who Roxy is as a person or as a character. I have not been led to a certain second that she would immediately jump on and do a bunch of these things and come to these conclusions on her own, which luckily we were able to see Alina Lee's probably had a large influence in her actually coming and doing this. But we do end up learning a bunch more too from her, because she's well aware, as we find out later on, about his scenario with Sylphie, about, you know, his family that he's starting to form and create. And even then she says, fuck your family, I'm taking advantage of you, and if it ruins your family, it ruins your family. Because what is the logical thing? Is she later comes out of this being like, nah, it's cool, I'm just going to take a step back, you guys are good, you don't have to tell her anything about anything that occurred here, she definitely doesn't need to know. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Clearly, as Rudy later says, he probably would end up having to end up telling her. He comes to that decision. But it's not like we do that, because especially if we're trying to be good, upstanding people, we do not keep secrets from significant others and other people involved. So what the fuck are we trying to accomplish and do here, Roxy? Are we trying to hope that he falls even further, and that there's a possibility of what Alina Lease talks about to him later, where there's a chance for two people to be involved, and then we can get you involved as well, so you're just gonna look for your only opportunity and take advantage of him here to be able to do so? That feels a little fucked up. It feels like entrapment almost at a certain point, which he still has the full ability to, you know, not do that and fully decline her and not accept her into the future family and everything that they're going to have. But it just doesn't feel right at all for direction for any of us to end up taking. And it leads me, like I said, to just feel about her as a person so far of what we've almost built up. And I'm sure there's going to be a variety of weird motherfuckers who defend her and think that, yeah, she was doing a great thing and the right thing. And even throughout the rest of this episode of everything else that we find ourselves into with the conversation, I don't see that at all. And it makes me strongly not very happy or like her too much. I always felt it was weird. The weird hive of people who came out after knowing her for 2 episodes and was like absolutely like obsessed and in love with her. I did not understand that in the slightest. It didn't make any sense to me. I thought she was cool for what it was, but it felt a little weird and over the top. And once again, I'm feeling that as we know her for basically another 2 now, and I feel like we still absolutely know nothing about her, and she's just revealing more sides as we know more about her of things I dislike more about her. So it's a little not great as we kind of go forward. Heard also words of like, just sit here and let me do what I have to, is kind of showing a little bit more of she's trying to take full control of the situation and not make him feel any guilt for what actually comes out of it. And it's weird, right? Because we're still going to blame him at a certain level for even being in this state of allowing something like this to happen. But it's hard to do that because how, I don't know. It's a hard situation. It's the similar thing that comes about when people end up being disloyal, I guess, towards somebody else due to being possibly like intoxicated and other things happening, and due to that fact they're almost taken advantage of in that situation, and then some people have acceptance of that and are like, okay, well, you couldn't have done anything about it, but you probably could have, and you didn't come to your senses and you didn't feel it. And then a lot of people have like these weird things. It's up for interpretation, I guess. Everybody can have their own weird feelings. I'm not going to tell you which way is correct and which way isn't, because some people forgive based on scenarios and things like that happen, while others kind of don't. We regardless take advantage of somebody in a situation where he's completely vulnerable, while he still can technically make his own decision and completely throw her off and push her away and do all of this if he truly really could dig deep down and do it. But at what level was his mind just completely like fucked up here that he doesn't know really right from wrong and what to actually do here? I don't know. I'm not in his position. I am not him. I am not going to tell you exactly what he can and can't do. All I can tell you is, actually, I will tell you this. If I was Sylphie and I got home and I found out everything that happened, I would not be involved with him anymore. I will tell you that. So maybe a little bit of my own personal feelings towards scenarios and things regarding this comes out here, and that's what makes me not too happy with Roxy at all in this scenario. I do not know, but I can tell you I would not be too pleased if I was Sylphie at all, and I would not allow it to end up like a situation like Alina Elise tries to portray later on, where it ended up with Lilia and Zenith and everything ends up being cool and everybody's fine at the end of the day. I would not let that happen personally. So if anybody was interested, I guess, for that, yeah, I would stand pretty firm on the side of we're not harrowing up at all here, and Rudy gets a big old fuck you out of it from me for that, right? But I still think I side more with he's in an okay situation here versus more so Roxy, and I pin a lot of blame, mainly almost all the blame, onto her here. We end up deciding, we talk things out a little bit, we're going back home, and then we check in on Zenith. It doesn't seem like things are going to go too well from her. It seems like she's gonna kind of be like this for the rest of her life, would be the assumption that I have. Not too great. Lily is strong as fuck. Let's just get that across too. She is great. I wonder how she's dealing with this and what she's going through. I mean, we show the red and everything around her eyes. Clearly, she's kind of destroyed by it, and it does suck that nobody's really checking in on her or being there to care for her, because she's really putting up with a lot here, having to have lost somebody like Paul, having to now deal with Zenith, like having to also deal with the fact that Rudy's completely destroyed too, also being completely removed from her daughter. It's like a lot, and she's just kind of cool with it from what we can really see, which is a little unfortunate. And I really hope that somebody checks on her a little bit. The action stuff, it's cool. We advance. This is almost what I think I wish we would have had for episode 20 instead of these prolonged little sequences and stuff that we had, exploring like the cities and stuff. I think I would have liked just like quick little minute long, let's flash through a bunch of the stuff and get to where we are, but we didn't. We build up more stuff here. Roxy, once again, is still well aware of his entire scenario, but still continues to try and get closer. And then she like almost takes the upper hand later, where she's like, nah, I'm a good person in this situation, which is complete fucking bullshit. I love the inner dialogue finally that we get between Rudy. I feel like we almost never do, of deciding I'm in a state where I think I can mentally make this decision now, where he didn't probably feel like that a couple days before. And he's like, I have to stay loyal. I have to do what I have to do. Cool. Big old thumbs up for me, deciding that that's what he wants, and kind of just talking things through a little bit with her. We learn a lot about Roxy too, and her own feelings towards the situation, her feelings towards Rudy and stuff when he was younger, and seeing all that, why exactly she feels the way that she does running into him in this first sight thing that she goes through, and how that made him feel. I mean, this is a big fantasy and stuff that comes from her. So yeah, why she ends up with where exactly she is. This is probably, now the more that I think about it, the worst part about Rudy is just like, he didn't even do this, but it was just the indecisiveness here of him like, yeah, I shouldn't do this. Yeah, I gained nothing from it. And then he's still like not pulling away or anything, and that she has to, which like, it's almost like she's trying to think that she's like doing a good thing for him here, which like she is, because he shouldn't be doing it. But it's also like, you're literally leaning against bro for how long up to these days here. She's like, I'm just trying to be your missing arm here. I don't know. I just don't buy it. I said this already. Like, I get where she comes from. Oh, she's had this fantasy for Lord knows how fucking long in her life, and then finally it happened, and she found this person, and instantly she gained like this obsession and stuff. And it's like, okay, here's Rudy's love for her because of however long, and it's completely different. And we use the analogy with the swords and everything, and people have their different purposes, and he's like, I love her for these different reasons too. And it's like, cool, sure, I get it. But at the same time, usually you just can kind of watch and feel a chemistry and an understanding and stuff between characters, and I don't feel that at all. I literally don't. That was what I love so much about quarter one of this season, was it was slow, it was kind of just doing its thing, but something about the way that we drew up the relationship between Rudy and Sylphie was so fucking strong to me, and it felt so like, I just felt it. And it made me care, right? And it made me become invested, and it made me care for these characters, and made me care for the things that they had together, and made me enjoy the moments that they had together. It made me understand and see that connection between them, and how much each of them kind of care for each other. Whereas here, it almost feels like we're just throwing random heroic scenarios or random things like this, and we're like, let's go. That's it. That's the relationship. And that's all it takes. And while that's true, and that absolutely does happen with a variety of people, I just don't buy it in the visual form that we have been given so far. There's nothing about it that makes me go like, oh, that was great. Or, oh, I'm feeling this. Or, oh, I'm really enjoying where we're going. And maybe it's my disliking towards everything that we learned early in this episode with Roxy. Or maybe it's my lack of feeling like I can become attached in any sort of way to her because I don't really know too much, I feel like, at all about her. I have absolutely no idea, but who knows? Because Selfie, if we're being honest too, was around for what, 2 episodes? And then we got nothing from her until we got like 7 episodes probably at the end of the last season. So it was like roughly same amount of time, because Roxy's got what, 4 episodes now? 5 episodes that she's kind of been 4 probably that she's been involved, and that she's had these dialogue and notes and stuff that we've sent back and forth at times. So it's not too far gone, or too far fetched to say that they've had similar enough screen time, or moments at least. I don't know. I don't feel it at all. Like, I see this, and usually you would see a shot like this and I'd be like, let's fucking go, right? Like, I'm feeling the connection. I'm being sold on the characters. I'm being sold on the relationship. I see this and I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to see that, right? That's how I feel. That's exactly how I'm feeling right now. We blindfold everybody. We go through here. I got it. It's pretty cool. I still wonder if Orsted will just like randomly show up and know that we were fucking with his things. Alina Lee's here. She's like, oh, the moment she said this line, I was like, I know where you're going with this. Oh, she doesn't either. So you guys can openly accept this. You go ahead, marry this other girl. You know, who cares? You have a kid and a wife and all this other stuff, right? And I don't take issue at all. I should probably have laid this out earlier. I have zero fucking issue if we do this. I have zero problem if we bring somebody in. I have zero fucking problem if we go down the line and say, Eris, get your ass in here. We're bringing you in too. I have zero issue with that. Would I prefer a story in a way where that's maybe not the case and we just completely go down the line, right? Like straight down the line. And we're just like, here, one girl, and we just focus on that. And we make him make these decisions and stuff throughout life. And he has the 3 different ones. And fuck, we can even throw Sarah or somebody in there. And now he just has to like do his decisions and stuff. Sure. Cool. I honestly think I would prefer a route like that, but it's the nature of the story and everything that we've kind of built up. It's like how the comedy in this show, in my opinion, is god awful. And the only like time that it really comes out is when we try and make like sexual jokes and do things like that, but that's because it has its lane and it's like we have to stick in it and that's all we know, right? Like that's kind of how I've always felt on it. So when we go a direction like this, it's like this is what we know, this is what we've introduced from the start, we're sticking in our lane, so it only makes sense. It's almost been only obvious since the beginning that we were going to head a route like this, so I don't have complaints about that at all. I don't care that we're going this direction either. It really doesn't bother me, and I don't think it ruins the story in any sort of way. What I do have a problem, like I said, is I'm not sold at all or don't have a care for the relationship or anything that we've done, and I don't think they've done a good job in any sort of way to invest us to make us care about that, at least make me care in any sort of way. And then we bring in a character like Alina Lise, who's the last fucking person you should be listening to in a situation like this when it comes to being with and having multiple partners and stuff, for actually having like successful and good relationships and not one-off type of things, especially from somebody who's openly talked about before of how much she's had to run away from and had to deal with and everything that she feels like she's kind of missed out and lost on and everything within her own life due to having kids and stuff too. So that's not the person you should be listening to here, but instead we do. And she is just like, well, you know, you can do this. Each person has their different, you know, scenarios, and she starts calling up other situations like this. Oh, you know, remember when this happened and everything worked itself out? You might be in the good. It's like the person who tempts you into doing things and pressures you into doing things that you know are going to be completely bad for you and possibly can ruin your relationship. It's almost like she has it out and she fucking hates Sylvie and she's like, screw her, I want her out of here. That's not the case. I get it. We were like, oh, we have to make things happy, or we're trying to make things happy for everybody involved. So this is the best route that we can, because Roxy's going to be destroyed in her if we don't actually involve her or don't include her in any sort of way. But let's not even think about for a second that Sylvie's going to have a problem with it. So who the fuck cares? Let's let this thing happen, and then Sylvie can make her decision later, because if it does, then Sylvie has to think later. If she's gone, well, at least we still got one person. We got a fallback option. Yeah, that's a dog shit way of fucking looking at it, and I absolutely hate that. I'm not here at all, which is why I absolutely love the more that Rudy starts thinking about it. And he's just like, well, I want everybody to be happy, but if I do this and then neither of them are cool with it and then both of them dip, and then kind of what am I left with? Or if I do this and then Sylvie's not cool with it and then I lose my family basically, and then I have to start elsewhere with someone else, and then it's like, can I kind of accept or be content with that? And I feel and think of things completely in different ways and everything. I don't know. And he's really questioning and fumbling and dealing with it, which I think is good that we finally get some internal things. And we're like, all right, let's talk to Roxy, as if, you know, acting like this, as if she hasn't been listening in the entire time on the scenario and knows exactly where we're headed with this conversation. And Rudy decides to basically tell her, my problem here is more so, let's not set the groundwork first and then go talk to Sylvie. Let's more so talk to Sylvie and let her know everything that's gone down, and then be like, I have an interest in doing this. If you're cool with it, then can we go this direction? That's my problem with what we did here. But I get it from this situation of, if she says no, then there's no reason for us to go back and have to even bother or tell Sylvie or any of this. So let's kind of figure it out for what it is now. Sure, that makes sense, but at the same time, then you're gonna keep that from Sylvie, that you literally just tried to marry somebody else? Like, what? We're just gonna start now becoming like that, and we're gonna no longer, you know, try and be honest or anything with people and be loyal in these sort of ways. I don't understand that, right? Like, so we're gonna have to tell her regardless if things go good or bad, and then you're gonna have to deal with how she handles it. So I'd rather just let her handle it before you involve Roxy. That's more so, I guess, where I see this is a good line. Being a scumbag beats looking back and wishing I said more. Sure, yeah, honestly, better than having regrets. I'd rather come out on top and be like this. Sure. And then her coming forward, it's like her face here before it like kicks in and she feels like it, is how I felt when he said that. I'm like, okay, brother, I don't fucking care, but we're gonna we're gonna let it be. Don't you need your wife's approval? Yeah, you fucking knew that too, but instead you just kind of whatever. Oh yeah, we'll think it through and we'll figure out exactly where we go. Oh, maybe I'm just like you, Paul. Yeah, you fucking absolutely are. All right, well, yeah, sorry if people don't enjoy the rants and everything that I go down. Clearly, you know, I know people don't enjoy them, and I try and keep the reaction itself a little bit more clean of it, to try and, I don't know, make people a little bit more enjoyable or enjoying it. The people who just stick around for the reaction. If you really want like some more open and honest feelings and stuff, you get that a bit out of the discussion, which is almost what I'm trying to do. But maybe let me know, am I overlooking things? Am I seeing things in a different way or a weird way that isn't necessarily correct, that is just like wrong? Or am I valid in what I'm saying? I think I am. I think I entirely am. And honestly, I'll probably double down after I rewatch when I edit it. I really do believe I will, but maybe I'm overlooking certain aspects or certain parts or things to it. There's a chance, I guess, right? So if that is the case, let me know. I really would like to know exactly what, like, people who read the novel or people who are just animes only, like what you went through when you watched this that made you feel a certain way. Did you feel similar or very different to me? And how did you take each of these situations? Were you like, let me not care too much, maybe on the level that I kind of do, and I take in stories and try and like take certain aspects of them and like take them and apply them in some sort of way to real life, and instead you were just like, this is straight fiction, so I don't fucking care. Yeah, let the guy get all the girls he wants and everything's cool, even though one of them is, you know, this older woman who's essentially known him since he was the fucking child and then took advantage of him in his lowest, most vulnerable moment. I don't know, to me that's a little weird, is it not? But at the same time, I guess that's looked at as weird as a guy who would probably be saying that, because most people would be like, yeah, I wish an older woman would take advantage of me too, right? So like, it's like a fucking weird situation that we always find yourselves in with things like that. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little off base for the things that I'm thinking and saying, but I really don't think I am. But I guess we'll just continue on and see. We got to figure out what goes on with Norn and Aisha's reactions towards the mom showing back up, Zenith showing up, Lilia being there. If that's going to destroy Norn even more, you know, now losing a dad and a mom and basically having no parents at this point, and Aisha still being able to keep on one. The reaction of everybody else in town, Sylvie figuring out the scenario and situation that we're going in. I don't know, lots of questions and things still to bring us home here. But yeah, this was the 23rd episode of Mushoku Tensei. I hope you guys enjoyed a lot more than I did. But I hope overall you just enjoyed the video itself and the discussion. And maybe you looked at things a little different based on what I said, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you just have a full problem and you can leave a reaction, or you can just respect at least and understand where I'm coming from. I don't know. That's kind of all I ask or hope. But yeah, thank you very much for everyone who watched. If you liked it all, like it, subscribe to me, not to me, feel free to check out the videos and channel if it comes with this specific series. I'll be back for episode 24-hour finale of season 2 next week. I hope you have a great one.